everybody. It's Philip Lee returning with another episode of Civil War Chat. Today is Monday. I think it's the 28th of June, 2021. Today, I'm going to talk about whether or not Robert E. Lee opposed the erection of Confederate statues. But before I get into that, let me let you know too, if you want to be notified of future episodes, then click the notification bell in the upper right and also the subscribe button in the lower right. Okay, so let me pull up my notes and we'll get started on this. Did Robert E. Lee oppose Confederate statues? At least twice during the postbellum era, Robert E. Lee opined on Confederate memorials. The first time was in December 1866, when the Republican-controlled Congress refused to seat the senators and congressmen elected in the reunited Southern states. Lee correctly worried that the radical Republicans wanted to disfranchise former Confederates, notwithstanding that the South's white state governments had helped ratify the 13th Amendment ending slavery. At that time, he felt the building of such statues might prompt vindictive Republicans to pass laws unfavorable to the South. In fact, that's exactly what happened. Thus, when a group of former soldiers proposed in 1866 to build a statue to Thomas Stonewall Jackson, Lee wrote them back, quote, "As regards the erection of such a monument, my conviction is that the attempt would have the effect of continuing, if not adding to, the difficulties under which the Southern people labor," close quote. You got to see at this time in 1866, the radical Republicans were wanting to take their land away. They wanted to take their votes away. There were a lot of things that the radical Republicans wanted to do that would have severely further impoverished the Southerners. Okay, 3 years later in 1869, Lee was invited to a meeting of Union and Confederate officers to mark the placing of a memorial honoring those who took part in the Battle of Gettysburg. But Lee again recognized it was a dangerous time to provoke the Republican-controlled federal government. At this time, Ulysses Grant was president. Republicans controlled the Congress. Although Virginia had avoided ex-Confederate disfranchisement in a plebiscite earlier that same year, it had not yet been readmitted to the Union formally. Congress had not officially done that. This is in 1869. Consequently, he responded to the 1869 Gettysburg reunion request, quote, "I think it wiser not to keep open the sores of war, but to follow the examples of those nations who endeavor to obliterate the marks of civil strife, to commit to oblivion the feelings engendered," close quote. As a result, Virginia was readmitted to the Union in January 1870. So he kept his cool. The Republican Congress followed through and they admitted Virginia readmitted it as a state of the Union, with universal black male suffrage and little disfranchisement of ex-Confederates. Now, black suffrage was guaranteed by the 14th Amendment, whereas an aroused, angry Republican Congress might have chosen to ignore the statewide plebiscite that granted the ex-Confederates the vote. During all 5 of his postbellum years, ending with his death in 1870, Lee conscientiously tried to avoid angering Washington Republicans. Even though his dad had once been Virginia's governor, Lee turned down the, quote, "prevailing wish," close quote, that he seek the office in 1867. He responded to a leading petitioner, quote, "It is important in selecting a candidate to choose one not liable to the misconstruction which their choice of one objectionable to the Washington government," meaning the Republicans, "would be sure to create," close quote. Significantly, however, Lee undeniably wanted to memorialize the Confederate soldier. In 1866, he resolved to write a history of the Army of Northern Virginia because he believed he owed it to his men. He didn't want to toot his own horn. Quote, I want that the world shall know what my poor boys with their small numbers and scant resources succeeded in doing. The world has never seen nobler men than those who belong to the Army of Northern Virginia, close quote. Unfortunately, he was never able to collect enough source material to satisfy his standards and never wrote the history. He was particularly frustrated that he could not get a reliable estimate of the comparative strengths of the Union and Confederate armies. Okay, so if you want to learn more about Robert E. Lee, I recommend The Confederacy at Flood Tide, which covers the period from June of 1862 to December of 1862, when I think the Confederacy had its best chance to win its independence. You can get this at Barnes & Noble and Amazon for $29, $28, and just go there and order it. The Confederacy at Flood Tide by Philip Lee, last name Leigh. If you want autograph copies, I'll sell you an autograph copy if you're here in the States for $31. That includes shipping. I'll cover the shipping. All you got to do is email me, Phil, PHIL _ Lee, LEIGH at me.com. Okay, that's our show for today, and thanks for watching.